Hello and welcome back to Kalam IAS. Today, in our NewsKase segment, we'll be talking about how air pollution is impacting the economy, what are the costs which economy is bearing because of rising air pollution. So in that topic, we'll be talking about the different effects of air pollution on economy, how it is impacting and what are the major challenges for India. So let's discuss the topic today and let's understand how it is costing dearer to economy. First and foremost thing is the economic burden of air pollution, where every year almost it is costing around $95 billion per year to Indian economy. And it is not just limited to a health issue mainly. Largely what we consider with air pollution is that it is a health emergency kind of situation which is impacting various people with increased health problems, right? But at the same time, it has longer impact on economy as well. If we see what are those impacts that we'll be understanding today. But before that, let me draw a line for you through the health emergencies or health conditions which are prevailing due to severe air pollution in Delhi NCR region and all around India in different cities. So with that, with air pollution which is responsible for different aspects, likewise headache, reduced cognitive function, people going into depression. Furthermore, respiratory diseases which are related to lung and cardiovascular diseases, asthma, and premature death even. These days, when Delhi NCR is facing very severe air pollution, we are seeing many patients are enrolling in the hospitals with these problems. And largely the patients are facing problems related to respiratory diseases, especially the lung diseases in that. And with all these aspects, how these things are also affecting the economy, that is one part. What are they bearing on economy? And then how the air pollution is impacting the economy, that is the second aspect of it that we'll be discussing today. So in that way, let me tell you one thing, what it is largely considered, and in a theoretical way, the air pollution is considered as an unavoided byproduct of economic growth. Why? Because it is largely understood that when a country starts growing, when a developing nation starts growing, its emission level also grows. And with that, many gases emitted, and they are responsible in the change of air composition, and which results in air pollution at different levels. And this becomes more severe when situations like crop residue burning or increased vehicular emission, poor quality of air in the atmosphere comes together and makes such conditions. So let's understand how this is impacting the economy and what are the major impacts based on different parameters which we have just underlined. So economy and air pollution, how they are interrelated. I have just told you it is one of the byproduct somewhat of the with the economic growth, which costs to economy at different levels that we'll be discussing. So first and foremost thing that will come here is the reduced productivity of workforce. This reduced productivity, why it is reduced, that you need to know. First and foremost thing is we have largely our activities are in the outdoor. And with the outdoor activities, when there is a severe air quality problem within the country and at different levels, this productivity reduces due to the health conditions aspect, which prevails into conditions like headache or absenteeism or reduced cognitive functions. Even if the activity is indoor, the professionals who are coming from one place to another place have facing the issues, and due to that there is low work hour productivity is being seen and estimated, and along with it there are people who are absent from work due to poor health conditions, due to rising pollution, air pollution, and this is hampering the overall productivity of the economy at one place. This work absence aspect we have just discussed, and again when there is more pollution, it affects in two ways. One is the health, and certain key economic activities are being stopped. For example, in Delhi and NCR, once the air quality became very severe, the trucks entry has got been prohibited, and due to that, the transportation of important goods and services are being difficult. Also, the construction activity in the surrounding areas is furthermore stopped, and if we see, largely the employees are in the or laborers are in the agriculture and construction activity within the outdoor aspect, and both the things are impacting the economic activity plus productivity aspect. Post this, the premature deaths, as per a report shared by Lancet, around 18% of the total deaths in India are caused due to air pollution, and largely they were premature deaths like before aging due to underlying diseases, and they got intensified due to rising air pollution and smog kind of conditions. Many people are still on ventilator because they have a lot of allergies and situations, and the problem they are facing related to the respiratory tract problems, and that is getting intensified these days, and that is also increasing their out of pocket expenditure. Also, when in the high pollution days, the weather is kind of hazy, and due to that the penetration of sunlight, which is largely responsible for photosynthesis, is not reaching to the crops. Along with it, the atmosphere is full of the chemical gases and all, and that is leading to creating lower crop yields. That is another such problem at the agricultural front in the economy. And thereafter, the fear consumer fall. This has been studied. The report says around $22 billion less spending happens due to this, and consumer fall is largely being seen from the month of November to January till the time this air quality is severe, and this reduces the contribution in the economy, like less consumer activity aspect will further come here. And thereafter, the hampered asset productivity also, because largely the assets are isolated due to severe category. For example, due to severe air pollution, the NGT in the Delhi NCR and other important cities, especially Delhi NCR, they follow this graph, that is graded response action plan, and they have categorized this from 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4 is with very severe. So once the graph 4 is implemented, the construction activity, the trucks are being prohibited, and due to this, the assets productivity gets hampered also at the same time at different level. So this is also doing things. Along with it, if you see, when the workers productivity is decreased, so it will further also decrease asset productivity, right? And then the increased health expenditure. Many people are facing, like most of us who are exposed to outdoor activities, like who are going somewhere to their offices and other places, they are facing some issues related to their throat, their lungs, and other effects, and the people who are more vulnerable to such problems, they are facing more issues, which is increasing the out-of-pocket expenditure into the health aspect, and which is reducing their consumption patterns, consumption activities, and that is further altogether creating problem and costing economy much dearer. So the air pollution, which is seen to be an unavoidable byproduct of GDP, is largely seen as a dearer when the air quality becomes severe. We can take the example of London, where in 1950s around, when the industrialization was at the peak, many cities, especially the London itself, uh, within the United Kingdom, was facing this issue which we are facing today. So they have taken certain steps, and those steps have been taken for the environmental protection. So it is largely being considered as a hypothesis that whenever a country starts growing, the emission level will also rising. And once they reach to a level, then they stop doing those activities, or they start declining those activities which are largely responsible for environmental pollution. And this can also be seen by a graph, and that graph shows the environmental Kuznets curve. This simply means whenever a country or a state starts to grow, the pollution also grows with the development of the economy. Why? Because largely they are responsible, or they are dependent on the sources which generates heat, which exposes the heat aspect, and that leads to emissions. Emissions of gases like CO2, sulfur, and other gases. And once the period comes, the turning point of the income, when the per capita income of individuals become good, become adequate enough, they start thinking about the environmental condition which is largely seen degraded, and they start working on this. So the pollution declines with technological advances, changing consumer preferences, and industry shifts. So they start shifting towards the industries or work which are largely, if we see, emitting less gases like CO2 and other gases which are largely responsible for such condition, like S2, NO2, NOx, and other things. In a similar way, we can take the example of US. Earlier, US was largely into textile, leather. This was before 2000. And once they reached to a level, they started declining these industries and started working on other industries which are more environment friendly. And this work has been taken up by countries like India, China, Bangladesh, which were developing at that time. So now we see there is a shift in the pollution level from US to India and China, the developing countries. And this shows once they will reach to a level, they will also further decrease. But today's era, where the climate change is fastening like anything, where the global warming or the overall temperature of the earth is increasing like anything, where we are going to face many disasters and problems, what we should do? Should we wait for it, that the day will come and then we'll start acting, or we should immediately start acting regardless of whatever things are going on? So we need to prioritize our growth objectives in line with the sustainable development growth aspect, and along with reducing our emissions and generating those alternatives which are cleaner in nature. So for that, the government is also doing many efforts. We can see that, like focusing on the renewable energy aspect to generate energy, and the government's plan of making the 50% of the demand of energy by renewable energy is a great step ahead. So this is just one thing. Along with it, the fossil fuel, which largely much responsible for the air pollution aspect, which cost much dear to the country, needs to be seen some alternative of it. That government is also looking forward. Now we need to understand what are the current challenges the air pollution is posing to India as a whole and Indian economy particularly. So let's see that. So in that way, if we see the challenges for India. So more than 30 cities out of 50, most polluted cities are from India. That is one very significant aspect, because this makes condition more vulnerable and situation much dangerous than other countries. Delhi has the worst air quality, and that is around the particulate matter. PM 2.5 is more than 10 times of the WHO target, which makes it much dangerous for the people living in Delhi, and it is costing the people of Delhi higher in their per capita income also. Now, when the air quality becomes severe, I have just told you the prohibition of trucks and construction activity, that further decreases the economic activity and growth prospect of the economy. And in India, most of the work activities are outdoor, mostly agriculture and construction, which exposes the human resource to work outside, still if there is air quality which is severe, poor, or in a bad condition. And 50% of India's GDP is generated by sectors which are exposed to heat, and if we compare by Europe, they are having 25%. So in that way, our laborers are much exposed to such air quality issue, severe air quality issue, and because of that, the economic productivity of the workforce is also getting hampered. So these are the major things which I wanted to discuss with you in this session of NewsKase. Now you need to understand there are certain environmental friendly practices which the government needs to do, which will further reduce the air pollution. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope the session was useful for you. Thank you.